Hey everybody, this is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and we've got another start and sit video for you guys. This is now going to be for the wide receiver position. Again, this is going to be based off of PPR or even half PPR. If it is standard, it might change some of your lineup, but this is, again, another PPR edition for the wide receiver spot. Now, we are going to jump right into this. Again, I want to try and make these videos as quick to the point, but informative, right? We want to be able to get you guys some good lineup, suggestions, some good starts, sits, and then obviously some good facts. So before we begin, I want to talk about, these are your top 15 wide receiver fantasy point leaders, okay? Again, like I did on my other videos, this is going to be based off of Yahoo Sports and Sleeper and, of course, PPR. So if you look at the top receivers, one of the top receivers, Cooper Kupp. Nobody really saw him as being the premier wide receiver going into the season. He actually probably wasn't even your top 5 wide receiver being drafted, right? And actually one player that I thought was a surprise was Davante Adams being one of the top receivers being picked either at the end of the first round or early second round. He didn't even crack the top 10, okay? There are players like Jamar Chase who hit the top 10, right? We got players like Mike Williams who hit the top 10. So there's just some surprises that went into the season, but I wanted to give you guys this information. That way you guys are aware and kind of seeing who's performing, who's not performing. Maybe you need to start thinking trades, who you should go after, who you shouldn't go after, and start maybe using some of these big names as some trades. Look, sometimes names matter for some people, but I think that might help you in some good trades going into the season because we are about a quarter of the way there. Now, these are your obvious starts here. Again, these are guys that I recommend starting this week. Should not be an issue. Typically, these guys perform week in and week out. And, of course, I put these as great starts because they're matchups. They're obvious starts. They should be playing whether they're getting the target share or, of course, their matchups. All right? Now, as far as your starts go, the first guy I have is Julio Jones. Julio Jones is going against the Jaguars. He should be back from this game. I've not heard anything differently, and obviously we'll keep you updated if that changes. But they are going against the Jaguars, who are allowing 223 yards to the wide receiver, which is 30th in the NFL, and they're allowing 40.9 points, which is 23rd in the NFL. So they are allowing, obviously, the wide receiver to score. And A.J. Brown is expected to be out again, with putting all the emphasis on Julio. This is going to help Tannehill and obviously help Julio. I think he's going to get a lot of targets his way and really redeem himself. Next guy I have is a good start. It's going to be Courtland Sutton. Sutton's going against the Steelers, who are allowing 186 yards to the wide receiver, which is 25th in the NFL right now. But they're allowing 44.1 points. So they're allowing scoring to happen, which is 28th in the NFL. Sutton's still really the only wide receiver. Now, a lot of people are kind of unsure with Sutton, obviously being that Drew Lock is in, with Teddy Bridgewater being out with, the concussion issue. But even with Lock, I still feel pretty confident with Courtland being in there. The Steelers defense has been struggling. They're allowing, again, wide receivers to do well, and I expect him to get a lot of targets. I'm not saying he's going to get a touchdown per se, but he is going to get a lot of targets, which is going to help him out. Now, the last guy I have as a good start, which I had him as a good start last week, is Corey Davis. Corey Davis put up 21 points last week. He's going against the Falcons, who are allowing 174 yards, which is 18th in the NFL. And they're allowing 41.5 points to the wide receiver spot, which is 24th in the NFL. Now, this is an early game. This is the London game, so we'll be playing at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Obviously, if you're, obviously in West Coast, you're dealing with 6:30. But, hey, you get to wake up to some football on Sunday morning, which is awesome. But I think this is going to be a game where I think Zach Wilson does okay, but I think Corey Davis does better. And I do think the Falcons end up winning the game, but I do like this as a good matchup. Now, as far as some sits go, as I have Odell Beckham Jr. as a sit. And it's funny because I have had people ask me questions about Odell, and they're starting him, and other people agree they should start him. I don't. I didn't have him as a good option last week. He only had 5 points last week. He's going against the Chargers, who are allowing the second fewest yards to the wide receiver, which is 116 yards, and they're also allowing the second fewest points to the wide receiver at 28.2. I don't trust Odell. Now, what the Chargers are weak at is the running game. I think this is going to be a Chubb and Hunt game. I don't think it's going to be a passing game. Like I said with Baker Mayfield being as a good sit, I don't trust Odell as well. All right. Another guy I have as a good sit is going to be Brandon Cooks. I'm just never necessarily on the train of Brandon Cooks. I know a lot of people gave me, a hard time because I didn't start him for a couple weeks, and he did well. But you got Brandon Mills, and you're going against the Patriots, who are allowing the 8th fewest yards to the wide receiver, and they're allowing the 4th fewest points. They did well. I mean, I understand, obviously, the Bucs game was a little different with the rain, but they held the receivers pretty much in check in that game. It was a weird, odd game, but I like the Patriots defense over the Texans offense. yeah, they're going to be. I don't think it's going to be a shootout, which is why I don't think Brandon Cooks is going to do well. I think you get 6 to 7 targets. I think he'll convert 3 to 4 of those catches, but I don't think there's a touchdown involved. Obviously, if he does get one, that will redeem him, but I don't like Brandon Cooks as a good matchup this week. The last guy I have as a good sit is Mike Williams. Mike Williams underperformed last week with only 2 points. He's going against the Browns, who are allowing the 10th fewest yards at 151 yards a game, and they're only allowing 30.8 points, which is 6th in the NFL. So the Browns defense is actually really good. They're actually really good against the pass. You've got some good cornerbacks there. They actually get to the quarterback as well with, Myles Garrett. So I think Herbert is going to be dealing with some pressure. I do think this is going to be a really close game, but where I think it's going to stand out for is more Eckler, Keenan Allen, maybe even a Jared Cook. I don't like Mike Williams this week. All right. Now, as far as some sleepers go, I've got Kenny Golladay against the Cowboys. Obviously, Slayton and Sterling Shepard are still dealing with the injuries. There's a good possibility they don't play. So if they don't play, Kenny Golladay is really going to sneak right in there. Cowboys are giving up 212 yards to the wide receiver, which is 28th in the NFL, and they're allowing 45.1 points, which is 29th in the NFL. This is a good matchup for Kenny Golladay. Also, another one might be the rookie receiver Tony, but I like Golladay a little bit better. He got some targets. He looked really good last week. Last guy I have is a good sleeper. It's going to be Devontae Parker, only because they're going against the Bucs, who are underperforming big time as far as the secondary goes with injuries and things like that. Obviously, this is another week for Richard Sherman, which is going to help him. But I think Parker's going to end up having a good game. Bucs are allowing 229 yards a game to the wide receiver, which is 31st in the NFL, and they're allowing the 32nd most points, which is at 53.4. So I like Parker as a good sleeper. So if you have him in your lineup, or maybe he's on waivers, maybe you need to fill a flex or something like that, I think he's a good one that you could start this week and feel pretty confident. All right, so those are my start sits and sleepers for the wide receiver spot, again, for week 5. Hopefully this stuff was informative. Hopefully it really helps you guys kind of figure out what you should do for week 5. If you aren't sure, always hit us up in the comments down below, or hit us up on our socials and Twitter or Instagram. We'll be able to answer those questions for you. Hopefully you got your waivers that you guys went after. If you have any trade questions, again, feel free to hit us up in the comments or our DMs. That way we can help answer those questions. If you guys did like this information and you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. That way you guys are notified every time we drop a video just like this. We'll be dropping our tight end video as well today. That way you guys are prepared for the game. There is a Thursday night game, so make sure you guys have your lineups for that. Take all your players out of flex and put them in the lineup. Don't put Thursday night players in the flex, all right? You need that flex, all right? So make sure you guys hit that subscribe and notification bell. Also hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next time.